Hey, have you found yourself thinking, I want to get better, I want to see some change, but it doesn't always happen. So what's the problem? This is what we're going to figure out in this video. What can you do to boost your muscle growth? First, let's see what could be the reasons you're not getting any better. Life is not fair. The younger you are, the more you grow. That's a reality. You may expect to break your personal records between ages 20 and 30, and after that, whether you like it or not, we all face a natural decline in both strength and muscle mass. Take Olympic Games for instance. The average age of athletes there is 26, 27. Now the majority of gym goers are between ages 18 and 54, I would say. And while everyone might train the same way, the outcomes will be different. So if you're frustrated for not growing in your 40s or 50s, you have a scientific right to feel so. But that shouldn't stop you either, because there are still ways to make you grow. Your current shape level determines how much growth you can even expect. The math here is simple. The better your shape, the less room you have for growth. It's always the beginners who have the most untapped potential and the fastest progress. But if you're well trained already and keep doing things the same way, sooner or later you reach a plateau. First, we need to understand what is it. The plateau effect lessens the effectiveness of one's effective measures over time. In human language, it means your muscles get accustomed to same exercises and stop growing. To get out of it, we need to change our training routine. And the good news is that there are countless ways for doing it, and implementing them isn't difficult. You just need an open mind and willingness to experiment. First question is how many times per week you train. One is enough to stimulate muscle growth, but that isn't enough to maximize the rate of your growth. If you train 2 to 4 times per week instead, you can build muscle around 48% faster. So for a start, let's try to train at least 2 times. And if you cannot do more, then I suggest going for full body workouts. Now 3 times per week gives you an option to choose between full body workout or push-pull legs, split body routine for instance. If you're not sure which one to prefer, actually there was a study published in Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research which shows that those who did full body 3 times a week saw greater muscle growth than split body group that trained the same way 3 times a week. Now if you train 4 to 5 times a week, that's enough for muscle building. You don't need more. But what if someone wants to? That's where high frequency training comes in. That means doing shorter and easier workouts. You do less sets per muscle group, and instead of lifting close to failure, you might stop a few reps shy. That way you're not causing too much muscle damage each workout, and you can train more often. But you need to be careful with it, because high frequency training causes wear and tear on your joint, and you won't want that. Plus, studies show that by training 3 times per week, you can build same amount of muscle and strength that you would with, guess what, 6 times. So more is not always better, and here's your chance to save your time and joints if you wish. Now, how long should you train? Some sources say workouts should last 45 to 60 minutes. Others suggest 60 to 90 minutes. And there's no right or wrong here, because first it's related to how many times per week you train, and of course what's the intensity of your training. So you can get things done in 30 minutes too, then you just need to train more often, maybe 5 to 6 times per week. But if you make it to 1 hour, then you can handle the same volume with less training days, apparently. For me personally, it's difficult to complete under 1 hour 15 minutes, and it can easily go to 1.5 hours too. But it's just important to remember that your training volume is not the key factor to muscle growth. It's intense, targeted training and proper recovery that does the job. I'll cover this in a minute. But in the meantime, to get to know you better, I'd like to hear about your training volume. How long is your average session? How many days per week you work out? And if you combine it with some other trainings. Put it in the comment section below. Let's use it as a forum to see how others are doing it. Okay, so far we spoke about training volume, and the key question here is, do you even have time to train more? For many people this could be a challenge, but luckily we have a very good alternative, which is keeping the same schedule but training harder. In scientific language, it's called progressive overload, which in essence is gradually increasing the demands on your muscle over time, such as lifting heavier weights or doing more reps. Progressive overload is one of the most suggested ways for stimulating muscle growth. The only problem here is that, in theory, that is a very nice suggestion, but unfortunately it works only if you have room to increase, right? Not everyone does. A lot of people are already training at close to failure. So what's your effort level when you train? Is it like 60 or 80 or close to 100? If you feel you have that room for pushing harder, sure, go for progressive overload. It's a really good option. Start testing how high you can go with the weight. Have an aim to increase. Maybe you didn't have that before. You were just completing your 10 reps and you were happy. As an alternative, you can use the same weight but 2 more reps. See how far you can go. You may have some body parts or exercises where you have more potential for growth. Try it out. Go closer to 100%. And when you do that, you may be surprised how much power you have left. Hey, actually, I can actually do that. I had no idea. Well, sure, because you never tried. So make sure you do. You may discover that instead of 10 reps you used to do with this weight, you can actually go up to 20 when you put in all you have. So here's your sleeping gains. But let's not over-focus on pushing your limits. Some train just to be in a shape and feel good, so you can test your boundaries here and there with progressive overload. But of course, if you want to transform your physique, make a visual difference so that you start getting comments, then it's another game and you need more hardcore approach. But remember that you cannot always train more or harder. We have age and health limits. Sometimes injuries come by. Your own motivation can change in correlation with life events, but you can always train smarter. So let's see what are the options here. One thing I recommend is using wide range of exercises and constantly changing them. Don't let your body know what's coming. I googled chest exercises to see what it gives me, and here you go. 50 exercises with pictures and explanations on front page, available to use for everyone. Now what's the practice? Nobody does them all. When you look around in gym, bench press is the king. That's the busiest place. Decline bench is always free. Or have you ever seen anyone doing close grip post push-ups? Or working with bands? Static exercises? If yes, then this is not a bodybuilder, but probably some CrossFit guy, calisthenics lover, or someone recovering from injury, because doctors make us do such things. Now, why am I telling this? The more narrow is your choice of exercises, the easier it is for your muscles to adapt and stop growing. Take chest, for instance. We all know that chest has different parts and there are different exercises for that. But even when you use different angles in bench press, both with barbells and dumbbells, it's still a similar movement. Think of pullover, for instance. Wouldn't that be a completely different effort? Of course you feel more comfortable doing similar exercises, but so do your muscles, and that's something you want to avoid, right? I personally never trained the same weight twice. First, I think which exercises I did last time for this muscle group and exclude them, because there's plenty of others out there, and often we overlook them because we're stuck in our training plan. Or we look at others and repeat that because it seems to be a right choice. If everyone does it, so it must be good. So I encourage you to explore a wider range of exercises and see what works best for you. Now let's look at tempo. I think any of you who has been to gym has noticed that most people are pumping iron up and down the same way. A second or two down, no pause, a second or two up, and repeat. And it's fine. You're doing controlled and deliberate movements that are most optimal for bodybuilding. But since this video is about what to do when it doesn't seem to take you any further, you might want to bring some variety into this. One of the most common variations is slowing down the tempo of lifts. You can do it either on the way up, down, or both. And this increases muscle fiber recruitment and metabolic stress, which contribute to growth. And different academic sources are quite unanimous that 40 to 60 seconds time under tension is best. But if you think about duration of a usual sets of 6 to 10 or maybe 12, you see that you get nowhere near that 40 seconds. So by moving slower, you make yourself a favor. I do that a lot. Usually go for 6 seconds in lowering phase, and of course it changes the nature of exercise completely. First you need to take a lighter weight for that, sometimes even much lighter. Also, if you start counting 6 seconds on every lift, it's going to be difficult to count reps at the same time. So you might want to have an eye contact with the nearest clock to make sure you reach at least 40 seconds. And the third principal difference is the sensation in your muscles while performing. Especially towards the end, it should feel like a painful endurance exercise or something. But that's the point, to surprise your muscles and push them out of their comfort zone. Another way for getting a variety is including some static exercises in your routine. In static strength training, you pick a position and hold it. Technically speaking, it's a muscle contraction without movement. Most well-known example would probably be a plank exercise. It's everywhere you look these days. But if we leave plank aside, you don't see too many people doing static exercises in gym, right? Well, they do a lot of them in other temples of strength. For instance, Buddhist monks who are known for their strength and stamina. So why wouldn't you? Have a leg day, grab a weight and hold it with your legs at a 90-degree angle for 40 seconds. See how they start trembling. Or on chest day, instead of the usual machine fly, grab the handles, press them together and hold for 40 seconds. And this midline hold gives you an excellent chest contraction. But you can also have a cable crossover. There you get to choose the angle if you want to affect the different parts of the chest. Plus, you can bring your arms over the top of each other to get the more abduction, hence a complete contraction. If you pick a decent weight, trust me, it's not easy to hold it together for 40 seconds, especially in the end. Even if you do just one exercise for each muscle groups in your usual program, it makes an impact. Another benefit of doing it comes to those who have issues with joints, since they impose a minimal strain. Whenever I have some problem in my body that makes certain movements painful, I think, is there some static exercise that I could use in order to keep training? And usually there is. And same way, they are particularly beneficial when you're rebuilding from injury. So finding some exercises and using them is definitely worth your time. Now, so far we spoke about different forms of increasing the pressure on your muscles. But this strategy is useful if you're not working hard enough. For those who are already touching their limits, it's not sustainable. And for this group, actually the opposite works best, giving your body some adequate rest and recovery. And this is crucial for muscle growth and of course injury prevention. I know psychologically it's hard to train less for growing muscles. There's some cognitive dissonance aspect here, I think. But in fact, you give yourself time to recover between workouts, and it allows your muscles to repair and rebuild stronger. Opportunities are everywhere, starting from sleep. The average person requires around 8 hours of sleep per night to function at best. Now, the harder you train, the more your muscles and nervous system will break down in the natural course of experiencing stress on the body. And that rebuilding is done during sleep for most part. So naturally, the more you do, the more time it's going to take to rebuild those systems and the more sleep you need. For weightlifters or athletes in general, it's recommended to get 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night. So now let's look at the daytime. If you train close to failure, longer breaks between sets or reducing number of training days per week can make a difference. Also, you shouldn't be too afraid of taking some weeks off. A study published in the Journal of Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise found that 2 weeks of downtime causes no significant loss in bench press or squat performance. And in another study, it was found that strength is readily maintained for up to 4 weeks of inactivity. So if you feel you could use a longer break, that's your green light. You can combine it with your vacation or traveling or other life events where you want to concentrate on something else. And it helps you to keep your life in balance. Think of Olympic athletes. Nobody is in perfect shape all year round. Track and field, for instance. They are timing their peak performance twice a year for indoor and outdoor seasons, and their training volumes are not the same all year round. First comes building the base. This is hard work. But during seasons, they have rest day before and after competitions, or have a very light sessions, or just a warm up and stretching. So post-season, the break is taken for at least a couple of weeks. For NBA players, for instance, the summer break is 1 or even 2 months, depending if they got to playoffs or not. For ballet dancers, 2 months summer break. So coming from there, how can we expect to be in top shape and also improve all year round without having a proper rest? For well-trained people, it's like a staircase with rest needed before the next upward step is possible. So we should view taking some time off once in a while as a stepping stones to the next level. But there's even more options. Talking about rest and variety in exercises, we cannot pass combining different disciplines, both within and outside the gym. In Arnold Schwarzenegger's era, bodybuilding was a separate sport. But today I'm happy to see that acrobatics, CrossFit, boxing, functional fitness, and others have found their place in gyms. You see, I'm not a bodybuilder. I do different stuff from boxing to yoga, and there's a very high chance that you are not either. Most of us here don't train for stage. We just want to take care of our bodies, and going to gym is one way of doing it. So that means we're training for life, right? And I have to admit, these two are quite far from each other. And let me bring you an example. Imagine walking down the street or reading a bedtime story to your kid. Does it make any difference whether you bench press 200 or 300 pounds? No, really. It matters only in gym. Now, if we think of shape as health, then it converts to how many years you can walk on that street and whether you make it to reading bedtime stories to your grandchildren. Well, that makes a lot of difference, right? Now, why am I telling this? When we look at wider picture of being in shape, then bodybuilding is rather narrow field, and it takes sense to look beyond that. The aim of bodybuilding is to make your muscles bigger and your body look better. Yeah, if you say it's also making it stronger, yes, I agree, but we have actually weightlifting for that. Now, from the evolutionary point of view, that was never the primary issue. Although bodybuilding really does good to your body, we're still developing quite limited functions with it because it's mostly about muscle mass, strength, and looks. But historically, our bodies were designed to run, hunt, throw things, jump, climb, swim, fight, you name it. Sure, going to gym helps, especially when you compare yourself to those who don't train at all. But we know that there are other sports, fields, and disciplines for developing all those functions. And besides that, let's not forget that as human beings, we also need agility, balance, reaction, speed, coordination, lots of other things where bodybuilding doesn't really help much. So when we take these athletes from other fields, most of them do weightlifting as part of getting better in their specialization. But do gym goers do all those other fields? Or at least some? You can build muscle effectively already with 2, 3, 4 trainings per week, so that leaves plenty of room for side fields to give you a more balanced development. In those fields, you're a newcomer, and your body is not accustomed to specific movements, so it means you also have the most potential for development there. You can break your records outside the gym as well, and as a result, instead of one, you develop yourself to several directions simultaneously. So why not to serve our bodies better and integrate some of those new fields into our routine? I'm sure many of you do that already, maybe even most of you, but to what extent and in which fields? Share your story in comments. Your insights help me to create new videos that are relevant to you, because it's not about me. I just happen to be on stage here. It will inspire other viewers. So the more we motivate each other to find and use best practices, the better it is for achieving our goals in fitness. See you in next video.